What's going on, everybody? Riley Welch, owner of 92 Social, and welcome to the 92 Social podcast. Before I get to my guest today, I want to shout out everyone who's watching. Thank you very much for watching on YouTube and listening on all the podcast streaming platforms. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/RileyMWelch, and follow all the social medias at 92 Social. And make sure you share with your friends, and let's grow this community. So let's get to it. What's going on, everybody? Riley Welch, owner of 92 Social. Today, I have a great company. We'll get into it and the reason why I thought this would be a perfect guest of the podcast. We've got Marisa from Stock Footage. What's going on?
Hi.
How's things?
Everything's good. Yeah, everything's good. Hanging in there.
Yeah, just the weather definitely helps.
Definitely helps, yes.
Yeah, are you going for walks? Are you a walker or a runner?
I'm a walker, most definitely a walker. Converted my garage into a gym at the moment, so working out, going to the gym,
I'm jealous.
The gym.
That's awesome.
So it's been all right. I feel very lucky.
Yeah, that's great. I know, because I tried running and I'm not a runner.
No.
I'll do like a 3-hour walk. I don't care. I just don't like running.
I actually love a really long walk, so I'm totally fine with that. Yeah.
I'll do it by the water. Ooh, you're good to go. Get a little tan going. Oh, perfect.
You're in Liberty Village, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you got lots of good access around there.
Oh yeah. Also right in front of me is a construction site. So it's in the morning you hear Tommy, the guy who's laying cement, this and that. It's like, and now I know if it's a Tuesday, Tommy's working. If it's a Friday, Johnny's working. So it's good.
You got all your friends with you. It's perfect.
Yeah. Just kind of wave to them. Yeah. Perfect. So for people that don't know, what is Stock Footage?
So Stock Footage is my baby. It actually is still very, very new. It only launched this past August, 2019. And the part that launched in August was the stock subscription and retail store online. So for every pair of socks that you buy, you get a pair to donate back to the homeless. And so the reason that was all started is actually because I used to work for a very large sock manufacturer here in Toronto. And during my time there, I learned that socks were the most needed yet least donated item to homeless shelters. And I think most people just don't know that. And the reason for that is that homeless shelters actually won't accept used socks or underwear for that matter. So when you think about giving donations, you think about putting together a bag of used stuff at your house and bringing it over to a shelter. You don't think about going to buy a fresh pair of socks to then bring to a shelter. So for that reason, there's just a shortage in that area.
Wow. That's one of the things where I didn't know that was one of the things that were needed.
Yeah. So I think, just purely based on the fact that homeless people are on their feet all day long, it's their primary mode of transportation. Obviously socks wear out pretty quickly if you're just in the one pair and you don't have a second pair. And then obviously you're walking around all day long. And foot care is just important to everyone in general, but it's extremely important to homeless people. Based on that, when I ended up leaving that company, I decided to go out on my own, and I wanted to use my relationships in the industry and my experience to be able to give back. Giving back has always been a really important component in my life. My parents were very good at modeling, getting involved in the community and volunteering. And so that was always very important to me. And so I wanted to find a way to combine the two. I mean, that's the ultimate dream, is doing what you love and hopefully making money off of it. And so in this instance, it was the added opportunity to be able to help others through that experience that led me to create Stock Footage. And so the company's been around for less than a year. And then the missing piece to that was another piece that launched in November, which was a charitable sock vending machine that launched into Ryerson University as a pilot. So it's the first charitable stock vending machine to my knowledge in Toronto. And it is currently there, unfortunately behind closed doors at the moment, but hoping to be reopened soon after all this is over. And so it follows the same premise as the site. So for every pair of socks that you buy out of the machine, a second pair of gray basic donation socks will fall from the machine at the same time and free of charge. And customers have the option to either deposit it on the side of the machine. There's a donation box, and all the donations from that donation box get donated or distributed to my partner charity. During COVID, I'm working with a charity called Ve'ahavta, and they actually have a mobile outreach van that's circulating the city that's still distributing supplies to the homeless community. So, you know, I wanted to make sure that people knew that their donations were still getting to those in need. And it's based on the honor system. So again, with the machine, if you wanted to take the socks away with you and give them out face to face directly to someone on the streets, I'm all for that. And the website follows suit. So we can either donate on your behalf or have your socks shipped out with your order to donate in person.
That's awesome. Wow.
Yeah.
See, that's a perfect example of like the mission statement of like 92 Social Podcast is to get that, like your company, like somehow a spotlight, because you're doing great for the community. You're bringing people together and you're just helping other Canadians. So you mentioned Ryerson, and first question, before you told me you went to Ryerson.
Yeah, so I graduated from the fashion communications program. I'm not going to say what year. And you know what? The university was so amazing to me. I had such a great experience there. They were very good always at linking students with industry people and connecting people. And since my business is all about connecting, and also since they were just so amazing, I really wanted to give back to the university and put the machine there, at least to start, just so that I think it's really important for students to see where people end up after they graduate. I think it was always really interesting to me as a student. But also, I think just given the access to the homeless community in the downtown core where Ryerson is situated, if people were interested in donating face-to-face, they would have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah, no, it's a perfect location, and I'm guessing you didn't have any difficulty or like getting the vending machine in Ryerson, because I know,
like physically
or just like the whole process of, let's say you had the idea, and then take us through your steps of getting that done.
Yeah, I mean, creating a vending machine from scratch that's customized was completely out of my wheelhouse, like very, very foreign to me. I have a background in sales, so you know, it was definitely an interesting journey. And actually, the vending machine was meant to launch before the website, but obviously there were delays, and so it ended up launching after. That being said, I am super proud and you know, of coming up with the idea and then following it through to fruition, because it was very challenging. There were a lot of bumps in the road, as you can imagine. And I think ultimately at the end of the day, for me, it was an interesting sort of passion project that I wanted to create, and I'm so happy that I did it. And Ryerson has been amazing in terms of getting me exposure and getting me in front of media. And like the day that it launched, it was like such a crazy day. I was on Global, and I was on CBC, and then I was on the radio, and it was like amazing. They were so supportive, and I think ultimately, you know, they really got behind the idea, which was great. And you know, just being an alumni of the school, or just even being a student while I was there, I've always felt the support of the university, and they really do get behind their students. So that was really nice.
That's great. My follow-up question was, how did you handle the media? Because I have a background in that, and even for me, sometimes where I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy.
You know what? It was such a like adrenaline packed day. I think, first of all, I was not expecting all that attention, and Ryerson was like amazing, as I said, to get me in front of people. But I think like I'm generally a people person. I'm not the type of person to get nervous for interviews or things like that. So in terms of the actual recordings and things, I felt okay and comfortable. I think I'm just so excited about my business, and I love to sort of tell the story of it, that it just kind of comes naturally when people are asking about it. But there were definitely some nerves, like just being, I don't love being on camera. I'm okay with being on the radio, and I feel very comfortable with that, but being on camera, I'm not as excited about,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Oh no. For me, if I go into something like that where I go in confident, like, yeah, that's fine. I've experienced, and then as soon as you like see them rolling the clip, I'm like,
I know, yeah.
am I on the
You
only
get
one?
a little bit like,
Yeah. So yeah,
yeah.
it can be intimidating, but that's a great little partnership you have with Ryerson, and especially what you mentioned in that area. Have you noticed, or have you shared, or is there any particular story that you're proud of? Because I know
Oh my
you,
God, there's so many.
yeah.
um, well, so a few that sort of pop out in my mind is when I first launched the website, I had someone order socks, and they decided to have the donation socks shipped out with their order. And they ended up going out with their 2 kids to donate. And that was something that they had never done before. They'd volunteered and done other community, had gotten involved in other community initiatives, but they'd never done sort of the face-to-face giving. And her kids were 5 and 7, both boys. And they went out and they handed out the socks to homeless people directly. And they had such a positive experience that they then decided to organize a separate initiative where they collected other supplies outside of socks. And they put together 150 care packages and continued to hand them out towards the end of the year, where it was around Christmas time. And that to me is why I started this business, because it's that domino effect of just feeling so good from giving, and then seeing other people feel good, and then wanting to do more of it. That's always sort of been my experience in volunteering is, once you have the opportunity to do something like that and you see the impact that it has, you just want to do more of it. It feels so good. And so that was one sort of example that was amazing. And then we do sock subscriptions on the site, so you can get monthly men's or ladies subscriptions, and basically you get 2 pairs of funky socks each month, and you can get the 2 pairs of donation socks as well. So it gives people an opportunity who want to do something good to do it every month and feel good about it, not just like one time. And I had someone order the annual subscription off the site, and the first month she wanted us to donate the donation socks on her behalf. And then she called me up the second month and said, you know what, can you actually ship them out with my order? I'd like to try and give. And I was like, of course, that's like what I dream of.
Yeah.
And so she ended up getting the donation socks shipped out, and she lived in Edmonton, and she went and she found some homeless people on the street to give them to. And it was, again, such a positive experience. She ended up chatting with these 2 men for quite some time, and then learned about some of the other things that they need. And it was just, it's all about connection and creating those connections, and also removing some of the stigma associated with the community. Because I think a lot of people are just intimidated to approach someone. And I understand that. Like, I think, there's this disconnect. And so the more that we try and connect people, the more they realize that everyone's just human, and everyone, is just a product of their circumstance. And, there's more of like a touch point to see that firsthand.
Yeah. See it feels so good when your idea, when your business is a domino effect, like you were mentioning, and just keeps on doing good in the world, that especially when we need that. So that's
Feels
awesome.
amazing, honestly. Like when I hear, I'm sure there's other stories that I don't hear. But when I do get to hear about these things, it makes me so happy, because honestly, I think just having volunteered myself, and so I worked at CAMH at the downtown Queen and Ossington location, volunteering for about 5.5 years there. And they used to have a library on site. So I worked in the library playing board games with the clients there. And I think, just from that experience, I realized that people just wanted to connect with other people. It was about having a conversation with someone. I've said this a bunch of times, but I heard a crazy statistic on the radio that homeless people only hear their names 4 times a year. And really, like, it's a shocking thing to hear, but when you think about it, it makes sense, because people just are so busy in their lives. They don't take the time to stop and have meaningful conversations. And I think this pandemic is teaching us a lot about connection and craving that connection now that we can't have it. We can't hug our families. We can't, see them face to face all the time. And like, a lot of my family is still in Montreal. That's where I'm from. So, it's just, I think this is the perfect example of why we need more connection in our lives, and why those moments are so meaningful to the person on the giving and the receiving end. And so being able to have that experience just really, again, makes you want to continue to do it. So
That's it's a good feeling to have, and especially when you keep getting that those experiences. Like, I'm doing it for the right reason. This is the reason why, and just makes you happy, makes everyone around you happy, and that's great to hear. So when it comes to the designs of the socks, how do you come up with that? Is it kind of like a notebook, write down everything, or?
So it's actually a little bit different than what people imagine, because the way that the business is structured is I actually don't design the socks myself. So I've partnered with different companies that are already in existence. So sock brands that you might see for at other retailers in Toronto. And I've just curated the collection to sort of what I like and what I think, people will like. But basically, I've partnered with different brands, and they are the ones supplying the socks. So I've incorporated the social component, which is the give back piece. So the sock that you're buying from me, you might see at another retailer for the exact same price, but they're not obviously incorporating the donation sock. So it was very important to me when I started this that I maintained the same retail, so that people know that they're not paying anything extra for the donation. I'm actually eating that out of my margin to be able to give people the opportunity to do the give back piece.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I was scrolling through, and I know you mentioned the guitar, the music, which is really cool. So from day one, and from August 2019 till now, would you is there any challenges you faced that you didn't think of?
For sure. I mean, I think, so for most of my life, I worked a 9-to-5 job and was always in an office with other people. I mean, it's a little bit different now because everyone's working from home, but I think, it's challenging as an entrepreneur to start out, because you're very isolated. You feel very sort of lonely, and unless you are involved in a network of other entrepreneurs, it can be really lonely. And you kind of are craving, again, connection, to be able to bounce ideas off of people that are in the same sort of situation, or struggling, or seeing some of the same challenges. So that was definitely hard on me at first. And then, just trying to figure stuff out. I mean, so my background is in sales, and I have a strong sort of understanding of the sales piece, but marketing and social media and all that is pretty new to me in terms of focus. And driving traffic to a website is hard, even just getting people to know about it. So fortunately, the sales part of me has that hustle to be able to go out there and feel like I can continue to, knock on people's doors just to get people's attention. But I think, you know, all this sort of new social media, Instagram, you know, TikTok, oh
Oh
God,
no.
you know, all this is so new to me. And so that, you know, that was a real learning curve. I'm making my way through it, but I certainly listen to a lot of podcasts actually for inspiration because, you know, just when I was starting out, because I didn't have that built-in network of entrepreneurs to lean on, I was listening to a lot of entrepreneurial podcasts just to hear other people's stories and some of the challenges that they were facing, because it gave me so much comfort to hear that I was not alone in some of these things and that everyone was sort of struggling at the beginning and finding their way. So that was super helpful.
Yeah, that feeling goes across multiple industries, and being entrepreneur, finding that rhythm or finding that thing, being by yourself, and because I love to talk, I love to communicate, and going from communicating, hey, what's going on, to like my own thing, it's you learn so much in like such a short time. But yeah, no, it's always good to connect with other entrepreneurs and listen to podcasts and listen to other people that have been through it is
Yeah, for
key.
sure.
It's
That's
definitely
actually
key.
how I met Eric and Ethan from Tuke. Is, you know, I reached out to them on social media and I said like, hey, I love what you guys are doing. It aligns very much with what I'm doing. I think it would be worthwhile for us to meet and just have a conversation about some of the struggles, or, you know, help each other out. It's so important,
Hmm.
especially now. Like, I love, you know, I'm so thankful for the opportunity to use your platform to come on and talk about my business. And I love that so many people are um, finally focusing in on small businesses, because we really do need the support, especially during the pandemic. It's been incredibly hard. There's lots of people trying to, you know, get your attention. And you know, before I had the machine and now it's behind closed doors at Ryerson, I was doing a lot of pop-ups to gain exposure. So I was going into companies and, you know, creating like almost like a little mock retail setting for the day. It was like a VIP thing for their employees. And now that all of that has been removed, all I have is sort of the digital marketing side of it. And you know, it's nice that everyone is so supportive of small businesses, and it's so important, especially at this time, to highlight them, because, you know, we're having our struggles for sure.
Yeah, and that's one thing I learned, and one thing I learned from another entrepreneur. It's doesn't matter what industry you're in, we're all in this together, and we have to support one another. And again, another reason why I started this podcast is to connect with everyone and showcase what we do. And hopefully there's an idea, maybe people, if the listeners are thinking about starting starting a podcast, starting a company,
Could
hi,
be,
yeah,
could
sure, why
be.
not?
Why not?
Are thinking about starting a company, will use us as a inspiration point, and because it all starts with something, all
Yeah,
starts with the
for
point.
sure. Yeah.
And yeah, so with all this experience that you have with your business, and we were talking about the challenges, is there any advice for the people out there that are thinking about starting a business?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, there's always going to be bumps in the road. If it was that easy, everyone would be doing it. But I think, you know, for me, one of the challenges was just sort of believing in myself, honestly.
Mhm.
And I think as long as you have a good support system around you, that's for sure super helpful. But then also, I think, you know, I'm definitely a perfectionist, and that can be really challenging as an entrepreneur, because
Oh yeah.
not everything is going to go the
Oh
way you
yeah.
want it to go. And
Oh
obviously
god,
this
yeah.
pandemic
Oh,
is a perfect example.
yeah.
I actually was supposed to get married yesterday, but that did
No.
not happen. So just, you know, you
No.
can't plan for everything, but
Oh.
uh, but you know, I think if you wait for everything to be perfect, you'll never launch, you know? So you kind of have to just go with the flow and pivot. You know, we're hearing the word pivot so much these days.
Yeah.
Um, so not everything is going to be rainbows and sunshine, and you just have to go along with the ride and adapt and evolve as you face challenges, that come your way. So you need definitely a lot of perseverance, and you need thick skin. I think I'm lucky to have that thick skin from sales because, I'm used to rejection. And so I maybe was a little bit ahead in the game because of that reason, because I don't get offended when people tell me no. I just think, okay, well, it's no because of this, so let's change that no into a yes. And how do we do that? So
Yeah, you said it, nothing will be perfect. I swear last Saturday, I was trying to edit something, and the program I was using was not exporting for some reason. Of course it wasn't. And I spent my Saturday trying to export this thing 9 times. And I'm like, God. I swear to God, I don't know. I'm freaking out. I need a drink already. But it's one of those things where I had to do something, but it's all about, just going with the flow. Just
going with the flow. You gotta. Because speaking of drink, have you seen our beer socks? I actually just launched for Father's Day a collaboration with a local Ontario beer company called Red Bread Brewing. And so for Father's Day, we're combining a 12-pack of their beer with our men's beer sock.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So it's all about collaborating and just like being creative and getting involved with a good network of people who can lean on each other.
Yeah, collaborating. That's it. Like that is the perfect thing. Because I have a few friends. He's one of them. He's a videographer and photographer, and so he was wondering, like, how should I do this? How should I do that? Of course, we're texting, and I'm like, dude, you should start with this idea, kind of go from there, and then that kind of spark plug into an idea he had, and now he's doing his own things, which is great. But you mentioned before with charities, is there any, what's the wish list for charities for you?
So actually I'm doing an Instagram live this Thursday with the director of development from the charity that I partner with. So I think a lot of people get confused and think that I myself am a charity. I'm not. So I work with charities to support them. And so I mentioned them before, but Ve'ahavta is the charity that I'm working with right now during COVID, because I want to make sure that the donations are still getting out to people on the streets. I think, there's a few ways to support them. Obviously, donations is one, obviously money is another, but they have so many good resources. And I think what we don't realize, just being so fortunate, is that a lot of the resources that were available pre-COVID are no longer accessible. So for people that are homeless, they don't have computers. Like, imagine how much during your day you're doing on your computer or your phone. Everything's virtual now. And so all of the resources that were once available and that are now available online are still no longer available to that community. So there's different ways to be able to pitch in, but that's just something to think about. It brings certainly perspective for me. But I think, donations, either monetary or supplies, are always helpful. And then just getting involved in whatever way you can. So right now I'm actually volunteering on a committee for a camp that I had volunteered at prior. It's a kids bereavement camp. And so it's for kids that are 7 to 19 years old that have lost either a parent or a sibling. That camp was actually happening this week as well. And it's obviously now canceled, but just I've been helping them, believe it or not, with newsletters and social media stuff, just because, they need resources too. Everyone sort of, businesses are wearing thin in terms of the people that can help out, especially not-for-profit businesses. So anything that we can do is definitely helpful.
That's oh wow, I'm sorry, I'm floored. Yeah, that's amazing. So what is the end goal for stock footage? What is that I know it's kind of hard to ask for an entrepreneur because like it changes every day. But
Yeah, the sky's the limit, really. I
yeah.
mean, obviously once things get back to somewhat of a normal state, the idea with launching that machine into Ryerson was to test it out and see how it does, and then expand the number of machines to different areas. So pre-COVID, the idea was to maybe have it at airports or hospitals or even large business buildings, sort of in the lobby, for employees to be able to access. So that's still very much a plan on the radar. I mean, obviously, my focus right now is just driving more traffic to the site and making sure people know that it's there, because we just hit a new milestone, actually. So at this point, we've donated over 2,500 pairs of socks since we started. And that's really the goal at
That's
the end of the
awesome.
day. I mean, that's why we're doing this. So, just getting more exposure and having people like you highlight our businesses, and then getting more people signing up for subscriptions and things. With Father's Day coming up, subscriptions are really popular right now.
Mhm.
It's an easy gift to be able to give from
Oh, hell
quarantine.
yeah.
So
Oh my God. All
um,
dads love that.
yeah, exactly. Who doesn't like a fresh pair of socks, honestly?
Right? I'm telling
And then
that's
if you
oh
can help others out by doing that, it's even more amazing, especially at this time, because the homeless community is one of the most vulnerable during the pandemic. So,
yeah. Yeah. So you kind of mentioned before, but just for a formality, how can people reach you?
so on social media, we are at Sock Footage Co. Co. And that's on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We also have a Pinterest page. I'm on LinkedIn, and starting to build the YouTube platform a little. So I could
Mhm.
use your help on that because I've looked at your YouTube page. It's looking good.
Oh, wow.
And then obviously the website. So it's sockfootage.com. And yeah, and then once the machine reopens, it's at Ryerson at the Podium Building, which is 350 Victoria Street, and it's just directly across from the service hub.
Awesome. So at this point of the podcast, it's how we kind of met too, which is great. This is the whole reason why I asked this question to all my guests is that in your area, can you would you like to shout out any mom and pop businesses? Could be like a restaurant, grocery store, clothing store, anything that's in your neighborhood that you always go to.
Yeah. So I live in the Junction, and I
Okay.
really love the store Bow and Bobble. And they have actually, Bow and Bobble is like a gift shop. It's predominantly geared towards females, but then they have a male store that's just down the street. They're both on Dundas West. And the male store is called Bow Men's. And it's like, they have amazing stuff right now. Because I'm in quarantine and most people are, I've been buying a lot of their puzzles. They have amazing puzzles, but then they also have everything like gift items, very giftable things. So even for Father's Day, they've got some
Mm.
great stuff. They've got cards, they've got puzzles, they've got clothing. They have all kinds of things for the home. So they're a really great business. The owner is Kate. And, I'd love to give a shout out back to my guys at Tuke, honestly. Because honestly, like when I first started this thing, as I said, I reached out and they were so amazing. They took time out of their busy schedule because it's their side hustle, not their full-time hustle,
Hmm.
to meet with me and talk about some of the ways that we can help each other. And honestly, that is what it's all about. You gotta collaborate with other small businesses to lift each other up. So that I really appreciate the time that they took to do that.
Yeah, they're a good group of guys over there.
Right.
Yeah, see, and the store that you mentioned before, two stores you mentioned before, uh, everyone needs a deck of cards, especially in a time like
Oh my
this,
God, she's got
or
the greatest
puzzles,
board games. It's
or
just like she's
exactly,
got lots of stuff.
especially
So
people go
yeah,
up to the cottages now because I think they're allowed. I think now.
yes, it just
Uh,
started. Yeah,
Perfect. Those are perfect little like games or things that you need to
yeah,
kind of pass time. So that's
for
those,
sure.
those stores are great to have, and especially one for females, one for males. That's perfect.
Yeah, and she's been on the street for a long time, so she's
Oh, yeah?
a very good business.
That's awesome. Well, Marissa, thank you very much for coming on the 92 Social Podcast.
Thank
It was a
you.
great conversation. I'll make sure all your links will be down below with your email, website, everything. Yeah, thanks for coming by.
Appreciate the opportunity so much, and hopefully we'll connect in person soon.
I want to say thanks to Marissa for stopping by the 92 Social Podcast. All of her social media links, website, and email will be down below. And make sure you check out youtube.com/RileyMWelch, and all the 92 social media will be down below. I'm starting to compile a nice bank of episodes, growing this Canadian business community. This is what it's all about. If you know someone that would love to come on the podcast, let me know. Shoot me an email, Riley@92social.ca. That being said, guys, I'll see you next Saturday. Take care.